Good Shabbos. We're going to begin in a moment with the Shalom Aleichem, and perhaps you have a Siddur at home. The Shalom Aleichem is on page number 5, and you may not remember that the Shalom Aleichem originates in people's homes, and some hundreds of years ago it migrates from the home into the shul, which is teaching a very powerful message that, in a way, we gain comfort within our synagogue by taking hold of an aspect of our home life. Tonight, I'm going to do something a little bit different. You know that the last stanza of Seitchem L'Shalom bids the angels farewell as they leave and they go on their rounds. But tonight, I don't want the angels leaving yet. I want the angels to remain in our shul. And so we're going to sing Shalom Aleichem, Boachem L'Shalom, Baruchuni L'Shalom. We're going to repeat Baruchuni L'Shalom, which means bless me, O angels. And we're going to stop there. And at the very end of the service, as we're about to leave, we're going to sing Seitchem L'Shalom, and the angels will walk out with us. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni is one of the few pieces in the entire Siddur that's directed to me. 6% of the prayer system is directed to the entirety, the community of all of us. We would expect Baruch Hu Nu, bless us. But the Shalom Aleichem says Baruchuni. So each and every one of us is calling out to that angelic presence of protection, of watchfulness. Bless me with your peace from the celestial realm, O angels. And on this Shabbat, 1 week after, we all feel that need, that each one of us has an additional measure of being blessed. Before we continue with the traditional service, we're joined by Ross Levy, and it's on the song sheet, Never Walk Alone. It's a modification of the prayer known as Tefilat Haderech, a prayer for a safe journey. But instead of thinking of a safe journey in the narrow sense of going from point A to point B, let's expand it and see it as in our entire life's journey. We need that sense of peace and reassurance. Never Walk Alone, Tefilat Haderech by Ross Lee.
Sheltered in peace. walking hand in hand, side by side, soul by soul, may we someday all come to know. May the waves of health and joy reach the hearts of each girl and boy, from now through forever. Now through forever. May we see the path that God has given us, and may we always be happy and free. Every step you take it safely, and in every stride, find joy and pride. May we never walk the road alone, and may we always be sheltered in peace. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh. May we never walk the road alone. May we always be sheltered in peace. Sheltered in peace. Sheltered in peace. Sheltered in
And now on page number 10, Yedid Nefesh, it's 4 stanzas, but we will sing just the first stanza. Yedid Nefesh is, in effect, a way of calling out to God and saying, excuse me, God, I need you to pay attention to me right now. Of course, it's more polite than that. But the power of Yedid Nefesh is that each one of us bears a soul, and the soul can, in effect, summon God to the soul's own attention. Yedid Nefesh on page number 10. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Mishach Avdach El Ritzonach Yarutz Avdach Kemo Ayal Yishtachaveh Mul Hadarach Ki Yerav Lo Yedidutach Mino Fetzuv V'chol Tam Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai Dai Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai Dai Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai Dai Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai Dai da da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da. Yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da. For 500 years, we Jews have begun Friday evening by singing. That's L'chon Ranana on page number 11. Come on, folks, let's sing. We're going to sing. In spite of a hostage situation last week, we're going to sing. That's how we begin Shabbat. No one will ever take away our ability to sing, our inclination to sing, our yearning to sing as Jews and as members of a community. L'chon Ranana, L'chon Ranana, L'chon Ranana, L'Adonai, L'chon Ranana, L'chon Ranana, L'chon Ranana, L'Adonai. Naria, Naria, Litzur Yishenu, Nekadma Fana B'Todah. Naria, Naria, Litzur Yishenu, Bizmira Naria Lo, L'chon Ranana, L'chon Ranana, L'chon Ranana, L'Adonai, L'chon Ranana, L'chon Ranana, L'chon Ranana, L'Adonai. Naria, Naria, Litzur Yishenu, Dekadma Fana B'Todah. Naria, Naria, Litzur Yishenu, Bizmira Naria Lo. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands form the earth's deep. Mountain crests too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. And pardon me, we stop there, because tonight we're not going to continue with the rest of the psalm. The rest of the psalm says that our ancestors were hard-hearted, and I don't want to talk about being hard-hearted, even in the ancient times. I'm talking about where you and I are now. And you and I are gathering in the synagogue and in homes joining in, and we are asserting who we are. We are descendants of a community that defines itself as being close to and connected with the Creator of the universe. And we sing over that. And that will never be stolen from us. And now, Josh Nelson joins us. L'dor vador is a very well-known phrase. L'dor means literally from a generation or for a generation. Vador means in the next generation. L'dor vador, from one generation to the next. Josh Nelson.
We are gifts, and we are blessings. We are His story in song. We are hope, and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words, and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. L'dor vador nagid god lecha. L'dor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, the door by door, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part, we are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. The door of our door, Nagid God Lecha. The door of our door, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, the door of our door, these lips will praise your name. Door vador, Nagid God Lecha. The door vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, the door vador, these lips will praise your name.
Mizmor David, on page 21, a psalm of David. Many psalms in the Bible are introduced by Mizmor David. Think about it. In the Bible, before we began to gather in what we call official prayer, we're singing. That might be one of the best ways of defining us as a community, that we sing. Mizmor David, and this psalm, Psalm number 29, has God's name mentioned 18 times. And you know the importance of the number 18. We assert life by singing and by reminding the entire world that we are connected with God. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Hishtachavul Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim, el kavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shaver arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzeh halbonon, Vayarkidem kamo egel, Lebanon v'Siryon, kamo v'Reimim. Kol Adonai chotze babotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yachol el ayalot, Vayechesof Ya'arot, Uvechalo Kulo Omer Kavod, Adonai Lamabul Yashav, Vayeshev Adonai Melech Le'olam, Adonai Oz Li'amo Yitain, Adonai Yevarech Et Amo V'Shalom. On page 23, Lachadodim, the first three stanzas, and on page 25, Lachadodim, the last three stanzas, page 23 and 25. Lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad Shmo echad l'shem ultif eret v'lit hila lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechuven elchad ki mekor abracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machashava techila lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha Kumitzei mitoch hafecha Ravlach shevet b'yemek habacha V'yachamol alayechem la Lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. V'hayu limshisa shosayich V'rachaku kol meval ayich Yasis alayich Elohayich Kimsos chatad al kala Lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Yamin usmol tifrotzi ve'et Adonai taritzi al yarish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Bo'ev shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'v'tzahala tochemunei am sigula bo'ichala lechadodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. And we're seated on page 27, the Psalm for Shabbat. We associate Shabbos with lighting candles and having a kiddush with wine and saying the hamotzi and eating the challah and singing songs and saying our prayers. But Shabbat is introduced to us through this psalm without challah, without wine, without grape juice, without lighting candles, but it's introduced to us with the idea of being grateful, saying thank you. We say thank you twice a week, once in the evening service and tomorrow in the morning service. We say thank you to God. That may label Shabbat, perhaps more than anything else. And the rest grows up later. Mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat Tov lodot ladonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lahagid baboker chastecha, ve'emunatcha balelot, alei asor v'alei navel, alei higayon bechinor, mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat, Tov lodot ladonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Ki simach Adonai b'falecha, b'maaseh yadecha aranein, ma'agalo ma'asecha Adonai ma'od amku machshavotecha, mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat, Tov lodot ladonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. The bottom of page 27. The arrogant do not understand. The fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. And on page, on page 39a, in the first bracha, we remain seated. The first bracha remains seated, page 39a. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El chai v'kayam, tamidim l'chalen olam v'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. And now on the song sheet, Love Your God, from Craig Taubman, introducing us to the Shema in a moment. On the song sheet, Love Your God.
Love your God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your soul. Love your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. Where you live, where you lie, you stumble, where you thrive, with all you speak, with all you know, with all your soul. Be like God, one like God, in love and life. Be like God, love like God, with all your heart, with all your might, with all your soul. When you seek, when you soar, when you breathe and breathe no more, love your God, be with God, go with God. Be with God, one like God, go with God.
V'avatach al tasir mimenu l'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema, page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol mildecha v'hayol hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha yom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam b'shivtecha b'beitecha v'balektecha v'derech v'shachbecha v'kumecha v'keshartam lot al yadecha v'hayulet totafot b'neinecha Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecho. A few moments of silence, page 42. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Mi Chamocha on page number 44. U'malchuto beratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lachanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh norati Lot Osefele Malchutecha Ra'ovanecha Bokeh Yam Lifnei Moshe Zeli Anu V'Yamro Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Voed V'ne'emar Kifad Adonai et Yaakov Ugalom Yad Chazak Mimenu Baruch Ata Adonai Gal Yisrael. On page 45, the Hashkivenu. And perhaps rarely has the Hashkivenu been more of a compelling prayer than these past days, these past hours. It's a summons. Each of us, all of us, are summoning God together to come and say, God, come here now and cause each and every one of us, those in this room and those far beyond this room, to lay down this night in peace and security, in calm and tranquility and reassurance that all will be well in the hours yet to come forward, the hours of Shabbos. And we can't but think of what happened just 6 days ago in Colleyville. And so we call out this prayer from our shul here in Mobile, Alabama, to the world. And everyone is going to be hearing this, those in our homes, those on the internet, and those beyond. For in order for us to have the confidence to summon God, it means that we have the confidence in who we are as human beings, that we are beloved of God and worthy of the attention of the universe itself. That underlies the Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu, Adonai our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Remove from us enemies, pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru on page 46, Craig Taubman joins us.
Vishamru את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפל, שבת ויהי נפל. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We rise, the Amida begins on pages 47, the Hebrew, the English side, continuing on page 52. I point out a bracha, it's the second bracha on page 48. And some are familiar with the melody sung Saturday morning. Mechakel chayim b'chesed, mechaye meitim b'rachamim rabim, somech noflim b'rofei cholim, umatir asurim. Matir asurim, it's here in the second bracha. It's literally breaking the chains of those who are imprisoned or bound. And we say that 3 times a day, every single day of the year, asserting our confidence and our perspective in life that God breaks the chains of those who are imprisoned and bound. And that has special meaning for us viewing our brothers and sisters in Colleyville, Texas. A few moments of silence. For years to come, for decades to come, we will remember what happened in Colleyville, Texas. And of course, you and I were not there, and we can never truly understand or comprehend or imagine what went through the minds of the people in that synagogue who were imprisoned by a man who had taken them as hostages. Who knows? And we all know what we've heard in the news, but for who knows what nefarious purposes, what it meant to them in those moments during those hours. And every one of us could second guess Rabbi Charlie for opening the door to a stranger, a man, might have been homeless, might have been a man bent on evil design. But who amongst us in our lives has always turned away from somebody in need? And who amongst us in our lives over our years have on occasion, motivated by something from within, reached out to a human being whom we did not know and offered perhaps a cup of coffee or tea or a little bit of money or some food or even just a few minutes of our attention? And you and I might say, gosh, why did he open the door and let that stranger in? Albeit that he's had many years of involvement with homeless shelters and collaboration and work to make the world better. What a sign of weakness it is to open the door in these strange and fraught times. And I would say, think of the bracha that you and I just sang, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayei Meitim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim. We say it 3 times a day, literally lifting up those who have fallen and healing those who are sick and freeing those who are bound by chains. That is the power of God. And the nickname of the blessing that we say 3 times a day, to heal the sick, to lift up those who are fallen, to break the chains, is Givro, which means the powers of God. God is not defined as being powerful by splitting mountains or felling massive cedars. God's power is defined by changing the world for the better. And we as Jews are commanded, demanded, obligated to change the world for the better. So Rabbi Charlie did what comes naturally to us Jews, to try to make the world better. And of course, synagogues and churches and mosques all across this nation are now going to be evaluating and revisiting, how do we bring the message of God's true power into the world when we have to take a step back and bar the door yet again? And we have to be practical, and our doors are locked, and only our shul members know the code. And we have other precautions in place, which we do not announce publicly for obvious reasons. But I'm thinking about last Shabbat. And last Shabbat was the Shabbat named Bishalach. Last Shabbat was the Shabbat when our ancestors crossed the sea and the water came down and they knew they were safe from the pursuing Pharaoh army. And within our Jewish mindset, every Jewish person, every single day, sees herself as literally every morning walking through that sea and turning around and knowing that the threats from the past are over, but the unknown future lays before. Which is why we recite the same song of the sea from last week's morning service every single day, to remind us that we are on a constant journey forward, a road away from past threats, which are no more, into a future that we cannot fully anticipate. In a way, last week, Bishalach could be called the turning point Shabbos. And for Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas, it is a turning point, as it is for the rabbi and those members who were within that congregation. and it's a turning point for us as well. But we were not in that predicament. Chas v'shalom, God forbid we might, chas v'shalom, ever, chas v'chalila, be in that predicament. And of course, we exercise all logic and common sense to avoid and to preclude that. We're at a turning point. Who will we be as a shul? Ahavas Chesed now, as we enter our 128th year. For 128 years, we have called ourselves Ahavas Chesed, the congregation, the community that loves bringing kindness into the world. We define ourselves as a synagogue. We establish our synagogue culture as a community, not necessarily of always wearing yarmulke, but of loving the principles of kindness, of gathering in synagogue as a community. And how will we be at this moment of turning? Will we continue to live up to the name that our ancestors selected for us? The ancestors who established the synagogue bestowed upon us a name, a heritage, a privilege, an obligation, and a responsibility, and a call to hear into the generations yet to come. And that is who we are, the generations yet to come, and so too on into the future. And it is our call to not relinquish Ahavas Chesed to fear, to not abandon Ahavas Chesed to cowering, to not say, I'm no longer going to be involved in the synagogue and show up. I'm going to hide and cover myself. We cannot afford for this to be the turning point. We must move forward into the future, which is unknown, but we always walk together. And that is why a synagogue is made up of at least a minyan, at least 10. And when I hear the number 10, I'm thinking about tomorrow. For it's after last week's turning point that we now have tomorrow. And tomorrow is when we stand at the mountain. We're standing at a mountain whose name is not known. The region is known, the desert is known, Sinai, but the mountain has no name. But at that moment of standing at an unknown mountain in an inhospitable wilderness, we experience the ultimate. We encounter the creator of the universe, and we're standing nose to nose, toes to toes, with the reason for all reality. And that's why we have to move forward. Our turning point cannot be one of abandonment or loss. Our turning point has to be one of embrace and of confidence that each one of us has a role to play in the shaping of the world for the better. That is who we are as Jews. We take hold of the second blessing of the Amidah, the powers of God, to break the chains, to lift the fallen, to heal the sick, and to make the world a world of God, each and every one of us in his or her own capacity. We're moving forward, not in fear, but in confidence and in promise. We're moving forward in joy, in peace, and in dedication. And I invite you now to rise and make kiddush. We have wine. Perhaps you have wine in your own home. We make kiddush and amosi together, and then in a few moments we'll conclude the service. Making kiddush, dedication of time and purpose in the Siddur on page number 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei Purei Agofen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yavo ratzanin chilanu zikaron l'maseh b'reshit Ki yom techila lamikra kodesh zecher litziad mitzrayim kivanu v'charta yotanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava v'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. And perhaps you have a bit of bread at home, and we can make the hamotzi together, and then the aleinu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu mashik shamet v'tzvon Yisraelim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We just made Kiddush, and we declared time as powerful. For us to interact in time with each other is to make the world better. That's Kadosh, that's Kiddush. The Aleinu on page number 56. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol latet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kugoye aratzot velo samanu kemishpachot adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'goraleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz Moshav Yekara Bashamayim Mimal Shchinatu Zo Begav He Meramim Hu Eloheinu Enod Emet Makeno Evezulato Kakatu B'Torato Piadata Yom Vashevota Elvavecha Ki Adonai Hua Elohim Bashamayim Mimal V'al Haaretz Mitachat Enod Kakatu b'Toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu Yehyeh Adonai echad Echad, O Shema, O Shema, O Shema Echad. Kaddish Yatom, mourner's Kaddish in a moment. In the Siddur found on page number 58. On this Shabbat we remember with great love Anna Friedman, Milton Berman, Annie Maisel, Joseph Brooke, Milton Briskman, Bertha Maisel, Mayor Davidoff, Fred Sussman, Mary Kelman, Shirley Sibley, Carrie Grodsky, Abe Friedman, Edward Morningstar, Ann Mashevsky, Dave Dunitz, Harry Wexler, Kim Olensky, Samuel Weinstein, Annie Jacobs-Lubell, Anna Maisel, Stanley Maisel, Irving Rips, Melvin Lichtenfeld, Jason Young, Helene Schreiber. And perhaps you have a name to mention at home as well. Any other names to mention this evening? We rise for Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chaye echon u'v'yom echon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'meru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'olam u'lalmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brechu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'ami ran ba'alma v'meru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. And it is our hearts that reach out and join with the hearts of others, filled with the hopes for peace and healing, that fulfills this prayer. Tomorrow, davening from 10 to 11:15 or so, might be a few minutes longer. Not exactly sure how long it's going to take to read the Parsha. This is the Parsha, folks. Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 words, the 10 statements. They're not called commandments. And you and I know what the word commandment is because we use the word mitzvah all the time. But the Torah doesn't label them commandments. It's statements, it's utterances, it's proclamations. To narrowly define them only as a commandment views them in one very specific, constrained way. Understand these are the words of the heavenly reality, and they're shared with us. And how will we interpret them? That's tomorrow morning. Tomorrow night, Zoom Havdalah, and Monday, Zoom Tanakh, and Tuesday, Zoom Hebrew and Zoom Spirit. And reminder that the film festival is still going on. If you have any questions, contact the MAJF office. And with that, two slightly different ways of concluding. First, Oseh Shalom, and then we'll bid farewell to our angels with Tzedchem LeShalom. Oseh Shalom.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. בהכל והכל ישראל באמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. בהכל והכל ישראל באמרו אמן.
We began with Shalom Aleichem, but we stopped before Tzedechem LaShalom. And so the angels have been here within the shul and also within the homes of all those who joined in this evening. And now we're holding on to those angels, and as we're about to leave, we're granting them leave to go to the next home, the next community. And we will be escorted as we leave the shul, and as you leave your moment of prayer within your own home, with angels of peace. Tzedchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi-melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. May you all be blessed. Litrot until we see each other again. Shabbat Shalom. Litrot until we see